What's up guys, Asian here again with another build video. This time we're going to be talking about the Magical Sorcerer, specifically Haunting Curse versus Daedric Prey. So I've gotten a lot of questions from people that I've talked to in guilds that I'm in. They kind of are wondering why I continue to use Haunting Curse on my pet builds, even though Daedric Prey gives bonus damage to pet damage. So if you take a look here, I don't know if I have Harvins. Yes, I do. We are on the PTS. The NA characters were copied over last night. So if you take a look at Haunting Curse versus Daedric Prey, so Haunting Curse deals 11,801 magic damage to the target and 5,764 magic damage to all other nearby enemies after 3.5 seconds. Curse will continue to haunt the enemy and explode a second time, dealing the exact same amount of damage after an additional 8.5 seconds. Compare that to Daedric Prey, the exact same damage, 11,801 and 5,764 as an AoE blast after 6 seconds this time. And while the curse is active, your pets deal an additional 55% damage to the target, except for your Storm Atronach, which only deals an additional 40% damage. So on a pet build, it would seem that Daedric Prey would be the preferred choice because you're getting an extra 55% damage from your pet. The downside is if you are using a non-pet build and you are lazy like me and don't want to go back and forth to your respec altar and completely respec all of your skills, is Daedric Prey going to end up giving you a loss in DPS on your non-pet build? So non-pet builds, I personally strongly believe that all Magical Sorcerers should have a good non-pet build, because there are fights in a lot of endgame content where pets can become a liability. For example, against the mage in Ethereal Archive, pets count as a player entity, so they can spread chain lightning. So your melee DPS obviously aren't going to like that very much if you have a lot of melee DPS. In the Warrior, they used to be able to get targeted by Starfall. I haven't brought my Magsork into the Warrior since they've changed it, but I've heard that they are no longer targeted by Starfall. But if that's not the case, then pets can be targeted by Starfall, which means you have to be aware of where the pets are when Starfall happens. In SO, they can die to the Poison phase against a Serpent, as well as World Shaper if you're doing hard mode. In Mob, they can stun the adds in that spawn on the twins against the twins and end up making those adds unchainable for your mag decays, which can be very problematic. They can also potentially die to Zahasha's Pillar mechanic as well as the twins' Prayer Face mechanic, although I've heard reports that since they reduce the damage that pets take from those mechanics, they can survive now. And against Hoff, during Execute phase for the last boss general, the Assembly General, when he's invincible, the more times you hit him, the more damage his rockets will do during the terminal phase. Pets can sometimes accidentally attack the Assembly General with their pet pulse while running to the next terminal and increase the damage that the group ends up taking. And in Asylum Sanctorium, during Storm of the Heavens against St. Olms, pets do get targeted by Storm of the Heavens, so that is something to keep in mind. So pets are somewhat of a liability in these fights, so a lot of raids, guilds, not all of them, but a lot of them that I've been in recommend having a non-pet build for those fights, just because of those potential to cause more death. Now, if you are a good Magical Sorcerer and able to control your pets, then obviously you can try to keep your pets up, but it's always nice to have a non-pet build, just in case you are raiding in a group that does not allow you to use pets during those sort of fights where they can be a liability. So now the question becomes, if you keep using Daedric Prey because your main Magical Sorcerer spec is a pet build, when you swap to a non-pet build, how much DPS are you losing? And then the same goes for Haunting Curse. If you are using Haunting Curse for non-pet builds and you have to use a pet build, are you losing any DPS? So we're going to try to answer that today. So here's what the methodology is going to be. I'm on my Magsork right now, so we're going to be doing one parse. We're going to be doing 4 parses in total. 4 parses. So we're going to be doing Haunting Curse, no pet, Haunting Curse with pet, Daedric Prey, no pet, and Daedric Prey with pet. And we're going to compare them side by side. So we're going to be comparing the pet parses. We're going to be comparing Daedric Prey and pet and Haunting Curse and pet, and then we're going to be comparing the same thing with no pet. That's what we're going to do. So we're here. So we're going to see and find out whether or not Haunting Curse results in a DPS loss at all, and whether Daedric Prey results in a DPS loss at all. Oh, I need to get ultimate up. So I will have to travel to a respec shrine in order to respec to Daedric Prey, because I am using Haunting Curse right now. But beyond that, everything else is pretty much going to stay the same. The only thing that we're going to be changing out are going to be Haunting Curse and Daedric Prey. Now, I have tested this back in Morrowind and Horns of the Reach, and I found that you don't lose that much DPS with Haunting Curse on a pet build, so I decided to stick with Haunting Curse. So that might have changed in Clockwork City, but I don't see any reason why it would have. Experienced a little bit of lag there, so this parse might not actually be as good. Okay, so this is our starting point for our Haunting Curse non-pet 34.7. So now we're going to swap over to a pet build. Unfortunately, I do not have alpha gear, say, on the PTS. Nope. Necro. So we are using a 3-piece Moon Dancer, not Willpower. If you guys saw my previous video, apparently 3-piece Minor Slayer is beating out Willpower on Sorks. So that's what we're using. So now we're going to do a Haunting Curse on a pet build. Hopefully we won't get any sort of lag, so we can get a nice clean parse. And then we're going to go ahead and travel to one of the capital cities and respec ourselves. Probably just go to Vex City actually, and then more for Haunting Curse, back to Daedric Prey, and all of our other skills as well, I guess, and then we'll figure things out from there. Alright, and that is the mark to beat with Haunting Curse on a pet build, 35.5. So now we're just going to go ahead and travel to Vivek City Wayshrine, Vivek Temple Wayshrine I should say, because that is the closest Wayshrine to a respec altar. And then we're going to remorph Haunting Curse into Daedric Prey, and do those same two parses again and see. So what we're looking for is how much of a DPS gain do we get, if we gain any at all on our pet build, and how much of a loss do we get if we on our non-pet build. So there we go. We got 19 skills to remorph. Oh, this is going to be fun. We want Daedric Prey this time. You can see here also, I haven't used it that much. You can see I'm only at level 2, not level 4, but that difference in DPS, it probably isn't going to make that big of a difference. Aegis. What? Wrath. Liquid Lightning. We have what? Rage. Crushing Shock. Blockade. Melee Drain. I think that's all the morphs that actually matter. No. Inner Lights. Shooting Star. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing there, nothing down here. So that should be everything. So let's put all of our skills back in place. This is our front bar. This is our back bar. Alright, and back to our testing area. So again, the only thing that we've changed here is we have Daedric Prey instead of Haunting Curse. Now, like I said earlier, I don't use Daedric Prey that much, so you guys saw Daedric Prey is only at level 2, not level 4, but that shouldn't play too much of a factor in how much damage I end up doing. We're just going to have to build up our ultimate again, and then we're going to be doing those two parses again, the pet build and non-pet build. And then we're going to compare the DPS difference between those two parses. Unfortunately, there was no quick way of doing this. Of course, I could just show you guys the numbers and do this non-recorded, but I like being transparent so you guys can see my testing methodology. Alright, out of combat. And here we go. So if you are using Daedric Prey, it is very important to use your Pet Pulse before you use Daedric Prey. This is because Pet Pulse has an 8-second duration, and Daedric Prey has a 6-second duration. So if you cast Daedric Prey first and then Pet Pulse, you're not getting the full benefit of Daedric Prey. Alright. So 35,751. Now if we go back to our pet parse from Haunting Curse, 35,510. So that's only an increase of 200 DPS. Not looking great for Daedric Prey. Do keep in mind though that my Daedric Prey is only level 2, but like I said earlier, that shouldn't getting it up to level 4 isn't really gonna make that big of a difference to my DPS. It might increase it by another 100 or so. So now we're gonna do the other test, which is a non-pet build. What happens if we use Daedric Prey in a non-pet build? So again, the only thing we've changed is the fact that we have Daedric Prey instead of Haunting Curse. So what is the DPS difference going to be between Haunting and Daedric? Building up our ultimate one more time, and then we're going to compare our combat metric parses. So do keep in mind that this is only one parse each. In order to get a more accurate picture, we're going to need to do a lot more parses between all 4 scenarios and then compare all the averages. So this is just a single data point, so don't necessarily take this at face value, but it is something that can tell us whether or not it's worth exploring further. That rotation definitely felt a lot clunkier. I'm not obviously very used to using Daedric Prey on a non-pet build, so we're going to give it another go. Just to be fair, I got only a 32.7k on that parse, so I don't think that was very fair because I wasn't used to the rotation. So we're going to do one more parse on the non-pet build before we make any sort of definitive conclusion and compare numbers. It was also that rotation just wasn't very clean, so I didn't feel like that was a fair comparison. Alright, that was a more fair parse that time. Let's go ahead and take a look at our numbers then. So 34.34245. Take a look at a previous one. 34.716 was the other parse that we got on using Haunting Curse. So you can see here, if we use Daedric Prey compared to Haunting Curse on a pet build, we're only really gaining about 250 DPS, not that big of a difference there. If we use Haunting Curse on a non-pet build, we are gaining about just under 500 DPS. So we're looking at a net loss of about 250 DPS when you compare Haunting Curse versus Daedric Prey. So that basically means it's more or less a wash. More or less. You can use Haunting Curse on a pet build, or you can use Daedric Prey on a non-pet build, and you won't really see that big of a difference. Nothing is really hitting 1k or more, but the 500 is still greater than 1%, so I would still call it a fairly significant change in DPS. So ultimately, it seems like it doesn't really matter whether you're using Haunting Curse or Daedric Prey, just use whatever is most comfortable to you. So if you prefer running pet builds, then stick with Daedric Prey. You're not going to lose that much DPS if you swap to a non-pet build. If you prefer non-pet builds, you can continue to use Haunting Curse when you use a pet, and you're not going to be losing that much DPS either. So choice is yours, it seems like, regardless of whether you choose Daedric Prey or Haunting Curse. As long as your rotation is good and you have a clear understanding of how to play the Magicka Sorcerer class, then it doesn't seem like it's really going to negatively affect you no matter what spec you decide to go with. So that concludes this video. Hope you found it very informative, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.